What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about why Norway is apparently edging closer and closer to the European Union. So, to be honest, like most of us here in the United States, I don't ever hear about this kind of stuff, especially from our news. And from what I understand about some of this is something that's very unique about Norway is that you guys are actually not part of the EU, right? But you still have a lot of like very close partnerships with the EU, but you still haven't joined it. And I'm just curious what Norwegians think about all this. And so today, I really want to check out this video here and learn more about Norway's current relationship with the European Union and what's happening and if anything is changing or what Norwegians think about all this. So let's take a look.
Let's start with some background on Norway-EU relations. While not an EU member, Norway is a founding member of the European Free Trade Association, which
Okay.
participates in the EU single market and Schengen area. And
Um, this is a good example of like Norway is not part of the EU, but you're part of this European Free Trade Association, which sounds like Norway gets a lot of benefits from EU trade and other EU countries, but you don't have to be part of it. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. And frankly, for Americans like me, it's a bit confusing, the whole thing.
has been a member of the European Economic Area, or EEA, since 1994.
And you're part of the EEA. Okay.
Norway's government has actually tried to join the EU or its predecessors 4 times in 1962, 1967, 1972, and 1994.
Wait, what? I did not know that. Norway has tried to join the EU, and what they like the EU votes or what they decide on who gets to join. But Norway requested to join 4 times. It could have happened. Really? Doesn't so does this mean that Norway wants to be in the EU or Norway doesn't? Because you've tried to join. I didn't know this.
With the attempts either blocked or turned down at a referendum. For instance,
Oh.
Norway's accession to the EEA in 1994 was widely seen as a stepping stone towards full EU membership, but a referendum on joining the EU was narrowly defeated, with 48% of people voting in favour and 52% against.
Oh. Are they saying that in Norway, you guys voted on this in Norway? Like whether you wanted to join the EU? And the majority of Norwegians turned it down, said no. Oh, so is it that the EU turned it down? Or that the people of Norway turned it down? Or maybe both? Or so Norway has like a oddly complicated relationship with the EU. It's hard to keep up with exactly how you guys feel about it.
Over the past 3 decades, however, Norway has become increasingly integrated into the EU's broader framework and initiatives. It
Right.
now incorporates the vast majority of EU rules in EEA-related sectors, other than
Oh.
agriculture and fisheries, and is fully integrated in terms of the free movement of goods, services, capital, and labour in the Schengen area.
What? So Norway does a ton of the things that EU countries are expected to do. You guys participate in all the trade things and why it's like Norway is part of the EU all but in name. It's like you're an unofficial member, which maybe that's like the best position to be in. I don't know. Because if you join the EU, there are some rules and regulations you have to follow, right? So maybe this is like a good spot to be in, where Norway gets a lot of the benefits of the EU, but you're not subject to its rules and regulations, perhaps?
Moreover, Norway has voluntarily aligned itself with the EU standards through a series of additional agreements, often mirroring the policy developments of its Nordic neighbours, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark.
Okay.
Nevertheless, Norwegians have remained divided on the issue of EU membership. After the
Okay.
2008 Eurozone crisis, public support for joining the EU plummeted and opposition increased, both because the EU was beset by infighting and because the EU economy was struggling.
See, here in the United States, like, we don't talk about the EU. We don't really know about it. We never think about what it would be like because we're never gonna be part of it. It's not in the cards for us. It's not gonna. So most Americans don't even think about it. Whereas Norwegians, it feels like you guys have thought about this quite a bit, and the country is kind of split on it, which is interesting.
However, in the mid-2010s, support for joining the EU slowly began rising and spiked to a two-decade high in 2022 after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. According to a February 2026 opinion poll for ABC News, opposition to joining the EU in Norway has now fallen below 50% for the first time, at 48%, while support for joining has ticked up to 38%.
So this is an interesting statistic because it's like it's not a majority of people who want to join, but it's under 50% who are against it. So where is the other like 70, 80, 86, 14%? Where's the other 14%? People who just don't know either way?
About the same as a year ago. Alongside this uptick in public support in the past few years, Norway's centre-left government has made numerous moves to align more closely with the EU. In May 2024, it signed a defence and security partnership with Europe. In May 2025, it signed a joint statement with the EU on strengthening EEA foreign and security policy cooperation, and more recently, last month, signed a participation agreement for the EU's Iris-Squared joint satellite programme.
What? So Norway literally has like these partnerships with the EU with satellites and security and defense, military, trade, all this stuff. But you're just not part of the EU. So I'm mixed on it. I don't understand, like, because I think the EU would really like Norway to be part of it. I would be shocked when I thought that the EU had turned down Norway from joining the EU, but it turned out it sounds like it was just a referendum where Norway voted and didn't want to do it. I'd be shocked if the EU didn't want Norway. Surely they do. Norway is like the perfect candidate and like a very successful, wealthy, influential country. You're like a perfect candidate. I'm sure the EU definitely wants Norway to join. So I guess it's just about reaching that majority of Norwegians who want it. And as of now, it's just not the majority. So that's how it is.
Through this series of deals, Norway can maintain formal sovereignty and the truce between its pro-EU and anti-EU political blocs, with the EEA membership model serving as a compromise between full membership and non-membership.
It's like the current situation kind of perfectly encapsulates Norwegians' feelings about the EU. Some Norwegians want to join, some don't want to join. So you guys have like split it down the middle where you have lots of partnerships with the EU, but you're still a sovereign country, not fully a member. So it's like, it's very much split in Norway's population, how you feel about it, and practically how Norway does business with the EU, I guess you could say. It's an interesting solution.
Essentially, though, there are three reasons why Norway is aligning more closely with the EU, despite not having an active accession bid. Firstly, rising public support for joining the EU. Secondly, Trump's impact on European and Arctic security. And thirdly,
That's I didn't think that the United States was going to get pulled into this one. So a little bit of the Trump effect, like Europe wants to be closer, like Europe wants to be more connected and distance itself from the United States. Is that kind of the idea there? Yeah.
and thirdly, the general trend towards deeper European integration. Let's start with the first reason,
Okay.
though, that Norway is aligning more closely with the EU because of rising public support.
Okay.
Generally, EU membership has been a thorny issue in Norwegian politics, with the
Okay.
centre-right Conservatives being largely pro-EU, the
Okay.
centre-left Labour Party divided, and various smaller parties either being fiercely pro or anti-EU.
So this is like a big Norwegian political like conversation where depending on your party or your politics, Norwegians are very divided about how they feel about this, like a big thing in Norway, like a part of the politics. That's interesting. That makes sense.
In March, the new leader of Norway's Conservatives argued that Norway should join the EU, adding, "I've been talking consistently about the need for a constructive debate based on the EU as it is today, not as it was in 1994, and saying very clearly and loudly that Norway should join."
I guess my question is, why does Norway not join? And it sounds like they're arguing, well, there's a lot of things in the 90s that were bad about joining the EU. Maybe that's not true anymore? Because from everything I'm seeing, and you know, I have no feelings about it one way or another. I'm just objectively looking and being like, it's like Norway is doing everything to act like an EU member, but not be an EU member. So is there something about being part of the EU that is like very bad for Norway? There must be.
This echoes calls made by her predecessor, who told the Financial Times last year, "We are by definition in favour of EU membership. If there comes a window to apply, we will apply."
Oh, wow.
For now, the Labour government are reluctant to open up a formal debate and are instead closely watching Iceland, the other non-EU Nordic country which has promised an EU referendum by 2027.
Yes, I did a video about that recently. Iceland is thinking about joining the EU. So that's actually interesting that now Norway might, you know, base some of its decision making based on how things go for Iceland. Is that fair to say?
The second reason is US President Donald Trump's impact on Europe.
Oh,
Early
boy.
this year, the White House suggested that using the military to seize Greenland was, quote, always an option,
Yeah.
sparking fears in Europe about America's policy towards the Arctic.
Unbelievable, but like, embarrassing. Yeah, that is a dark time. It will go down in American history. Honestly, it's not over. You know, Donald Trump is still our president. We still have many more years to go. Things seem to be not calming down, maybe getting worse, arguably. We're in Iran now. This Greenland thing was insane. Huge, I think a huge wake-up call for a lot of Americans, certainly myself, where it was like, we really are the bad guys. We're threatening Greenland. Like, what are we doing?
This is of particular significance to Norway, with nearly half of Norway's territory in the Arctic, and also follows Russian threats made last year, when it accused Norway of militarizing Svalbard, a sparsely populated Norwegian archipelago nearly 1,000 kilometers from Norway's northernmost city, creating a potential pretext for military action.
So, the United States is threatening the Arctic. Russia is threatening the Arctic. So, Norway might consider the EU membership for, like, defense? Isn't that kind of what NATO is for? I don't know.
As such, Norway is working much more closely with the EU on Arctic security, and in March,
Okay.
the Norwegian Prime Minister hosted a summit in Oslo attended by the leaders of the 4 other Nordic nations, EU members Denmark, Sweden and Finland, plus fellow EFTA member Iceland, as well as Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney. A month
Okay.
later, Oslo also hosted an EU-Norway security dialogue, with the first ever EU-Norway Arctic dialogue also set to be held this spring.
Oh,
The third
wow.
reason for Norway's closer alignment with the EU is the general push for deeper European integration, particularly on defence. In this
Okay.
unstable world, the EU is trying to make itself into a geopolitical power, and
So that is a big part of it. Europe is trying to consolidate a bit, the EU kind of being the biggest body here, and a lot of it is about, you know what they said, like the very uncertain, dangerous world we are living in. And it's in Europe's interest to work together. Uh, Unfortunately, that's kind of the day we're living in, where military and defense is like a big, big issue.
is trying to fold like-minded non-EU countries like Ukraine, Norway, and the UK into its orbit. For instance, last month, the EU's Defence Commissioner suggested Norway could join the proposed European Defence Union, and a recent EU statement said, "We commended the increasing cooperation between the EU and Norway on military mobility."
That's how you know the EU would love to have Norway. The EU like partners with Norway for everything by the sound of it without requiring membership. So, that's pretty cool.
The EU clearly hopes that Norway, with its massive sovereign wealth fund, will be able to inject some financial firepower into the bloc's defence efforts. There was
Sure,
even some
sure. Perhaps the EU just wants Norway's money, oil money as well. I mean, it might not be a joke.
There's even some speculation in December that Norway could back a loan guarantee for Ukraine amid stalled talks on using frozen Russian assets. But Norway's finance minister firmly dismissed this, saying, "I have seen speculation suggesting that Norway could use our sovereign wealth fund as a guarantor for such a loan. This is not an option." Ultimately, because
That would be a huge, huge liability, like a huge commitment. The Norway is under no obligation to risk any of its, sovereign wealth fund, even though it would be for a very good cause. No one should be asked to do that. That's a lot.
Ultimately, because Norway already aligns with most EU legislation as an EEA member, apart from in politically sensitive areas like fishing, even if there is a growing number of Norwegians who support joining the EU, the status quo does seem to be working fine for Norway. So
Yeah.
we shouldn't necessarily expect a Norwegian EU membership bid just yet.
Okay.
As I mentioned,
Okay. So that's the end. Huh. That's a good way to sum it up, I guess, huh? So Norway is clearly increasing its relationship with the EU. It's already been doing that. But the statistics show Norway is not going to join the EU anytime soon. And also, like they said, seem to be going very, very well for Norway. How things are right now. You get a lot of the benefits of the EU without being part of it, and it seems to be working. So why would you change it? I don't know. But a lot of the thoughts and news and things here were so interesting. This is just stuff that we do not talk about or hear about here in the United States. So I'm glad to really understand way better where Norway stands with its relationship to the EU. It makes a lot more sense now. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, especially if you're Norwegian, with your thoughts on this whole thing. That'd be cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.